Today we're taking a very quick look at Instatic, which is a new visual builder. This isn't WordPress, this is a standalone product. It creates its own HTML files, but you can still connect it up to a database and pull in data. It still outputs HTML files. So if you've ever looked at something like Astro, for example, this is a similar type of thing. You can inject that data into the HTML structure, so you get kind of like the best of both worlds. We have database content pulled into a static structure. This means that your site is ultimately going to be considerably faster than anything that's constantly calling databases and so on. But let's just take a look at it. Now, this is an alpha product. This isn't something that you can A, purchase yet, and B, something you would want to use on a live site. This is just there for you to test it out. And I have no idea what cost, if there's going to be a cost when this is actually a released final product. Keep an eye on it. But let's take a look at how, first of all, you install it so you can try it yourself, and you are totally open to try it yourself. You can connect it up to AI, you can use Core Framework inside there. There's so many reasons why you may want to check this out. But let's have a look. So I will link to this GitHub in the description down below. And don't worry if you've never used GitHub before or you kind of feel a little bit overwhelmed by this. The reality is you don't need to understand GitHub too much. All you need to do is come down, you can choose the one-click deploy, and you can see it's recommended to use Railway, which is a kind of hosting platform that has various different facilities and tools options in there. Again, you don't need to worry, just follow along with exactly what I'm going to do in this video and you'll be in exactly the same position. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on whether you want to use the SQLite for a single site blog portfolio or small business, or whether you want to use Postgres if you want multiple authors, managed backups and room to grow and so on. We're just setting this up to test things out. Choose whichever one you want, really. We'll choose the SQLite. We'll click on deploy. That'll take us over to Railway. We'll click deploy now. You may need to set up an account, but it's totally free to do it. You don't need to worry about anything here. You can just simply hit deploy, and we'll click and let that carry on. And just let it carry on and do what it needs to do. This will take a couple of moments. It doesn't take long to provision everything and get it all set up. Once it's then deployed, we can then open it up and take a look at the editor and set things up from there for the actual visual environment and so on. So after about 45 seconds or so, this is now being set up. You can see deployment is successful, it's currently active. All we need to do is click up here. The first time you're going to kind of come in here, you've got to set up a username and a password. So we're going to just name this Instatic Test. We'll pop an email in, create a password and say create admin. There we go, we're now into the dashboard. And as you can see, this is where we can control everything. So the first thing you could probably want to need to do is come in and configure a few options. You don't need to configure everything, so don't feel like you're gonna get overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff. You don't need to. We've already done the first thing, the site identity. The next is to choose your core framework import. If you don't want to use core framework, you don't have to, but it does speed things up. Choose the import option from here. We can choose to import the full framework or the variables only. So entirely up to you what you want to do. So if you want everything, including colors, text, and everything else, choose the full framework, or choose variables if you want a stripped back lighter version. We'll go for the full framework and we'll say import framework. That's now imported it in. Now this is going to be the basic sort of starting point. Then if you want to create your first page, install a plugin and invite your team. Now plugins currently I don't believe are actually available, or if they are, I haven't actually seen any, but this is going to be a slightly different way of working to WordPress. There's a lot more security based sort of way in the way the plugins work. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will link to the video that they've officially released, which kind of goes through things in maybe a little way than I would. Then if you want to invite your team, obviously as you get more members, clients and so on, you may want to invite them inside here as well. And if you want to create your first page, you can do, which we'll come back to in a moment. Then underneath you can see we've got some information about the storage, how much is being used, posts, pages, and so on. So if you want an overview, it'll all be listed here. So let's say we want to create a new page. We can do it from the top here, or we can do it from here. We'll choose that option, and you'll see the first thing we have here is a very different interface to what you're used to working with. We will see all three different breakpoints. So your desktop, your tablet, and your mobile, and you will see everything stacked together. So as we create things, we can easily visually see what each part is going to look like. And then when you want to, you can click on the little live mode, and that will take you in this example, into the main desktop view. Now, let's take a quick look over the interface. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail here because I'm still learning this myself and getting my head around how it all works. But I think it's useful to see a first look like this to see what features are here and whether you want to spend your time digging in. Now you'll see at the top where we're kind of previewing this in the live mode, we can easily switch between any of the different views, including the run the site scripts and so on inside here. So we can switch between the various different ways in how we can interact and view with the actual pages we're creating. You'll also notice at the top then we've got this little sort of pop out, and we can add containers, add text, add images, and we can open up to add to canvas. Then on the left-hand side, we've got some icons down here for various different parts of the setup. So first of all, this is our layers. So as we add elements in, we will see those inside our layers, and we'll come back and look at that in a moment. But right now you can see there's the body tag. And if we click and open this up, this will open up the right panel side and show us the various different options we can set inside there. So classes, apply variables for your backgrounds, your colors, and all those kinds of good things. Then we've got the site panel, which will show you then things like your home pages, your templates, components, styles, scripts, and so on. And you can create new folders, and you can create new pages, new templates, new components, and so on. So we do have a componentized workflow. So if you want to create components to speed up how you build things out, you could do that here. So you could create a component, for example, for a card design, and then you want to use that in various different parts of your site, you can use the component. If we come then to your selectors panel, this is going to show you all of the different selectors you have, whether these are all user-created, utility, or unused. So again, depend upon what you start off with, whether you use something like Core Framework, will depend upon what you'll see inside here, if anything. Then you've got your colors panel. So you can see there's our primary and secondary. And again, if you are used to working with Core Framework, all these colors are going to be familiar to you because they are the standard colors you see. So if you come into the Core Framework online editor, you'll see there's your primary, secondary, tertiary, and so on, your backgrounds, your text, your base, your neutral, and your status color. So it's all the same kinds of things here. Now you can come in and you can still edit any of these. If you want to change your primary to something completely different, like green, for example, you can absolutely do that. So we'll choose that color from here. And then obviously anywhere that would be used will be referenced inside the design. And if you click to expand any of these out, you can see we can change the token name, which is basically your variable name, category it sits in, the default color, the alternative colors. So if you're using light and dark modes, for example, you can set things up here. And if you want to create the utility classes, so everything you used to see inside the normal Core Framework editor, whether you're using that in the sort of online version or inside Bricks or Gutenberg or any of the other places you can use it, this is all going to feel very familiar to you. So I'm not going to go any deeper than this, other than just sort of say that you can break things down to your backgrounds, your base, your brands, your neutrals, and so on. So they're all there to easily see what's going on. Coming to your typography panel, inside here, everything is currently set up because we created or started with the Core Framework setup, but you can edit all of these yourself. So if you don't use Core Framework, you can still create your own fluid typography scales, fluid spacing scales, create your own variables, classes, and so on. You're not restricted, and you can use a combination of both if you wanted to. So there's our scales. You can see we've got a visual representation. There's the steps that are being used, the baseline step, and so on. Come into, for example, your spacing. Again, a similar setup here, where we've got a visual representation of what the spacing looks like. Any utility classes that are available to us, which you can enable or disable from here. So again, plenty of options for what is fundamentally one of the most important parts of creating websites, is having a good, solid framework in place. Then you've got your media panel, so this will show you all of the images and videos and so on you upload. And if we come into images, for example, videos, other, we can change the view and so on. We can upload from here as well. So if you choose to upload, you can just choose what you want. So we'll choose this image, click on open, and we now have an image uploaded to our media library. So come over to images, there's our image, we can click on it. There's more information about the image. So you can set your title, your file name, your alt tags, and so on. All being done inside here. And as you can see, this is all pretty snappy. Once it's loaded in, it's no different to working in any other kind of visual environment. It's very quick and snappy. Any dependencies will be listed here, and if we come down to the bottom, there's the AI Assistant panel, so you can connect up whatever AI provider that you want. So if you open the AI settings up, you can add credentials in, and you can choose from Anthropic, OpenAI, OpenRouter, or Ollama. So if you want to work off a local-based AI platform like Ollama and install whatever LLMs you want inside there, you can absolutely do that here as well. And you can connect this up to the desktop sort of codecs, Claude desktop and so on. Haven't tested that myself yet, but you can do it. So you can see we've got the MCP option here, so you can add a connector in and go through all the relevant things to connect this up. Again, these are all things that I want to test out. I've only tried it by using the API connection, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of because the costs are a lot higher than using your normal account, using Codex, Claude, and so on, connected up to whatever AI platform you want with a monthly subscription. But you can connect that up through the MCP, which is excellent to see, and you can choose what kind of features are available, so allowing write, site editing, and so on. So full control over that, and you can do audits inside here, so you can see if you are using the API key and so on, it will do its best to kind of give you an idea of the costs incurred by using AI. Let's close out of this, go back to our site. So once that's connected up, you can just click inside here and start typing in exactly the same way as you would any other kind of AI provider connected up to a tool like this. So that's the options down the left-hand side. And as you can see, we can now start creating things. So if we come in and edit this particular design, we can come over, we've got our option to add things in. So come to this little block at the top, we can add a container in. You can see that's now set a container. If we come back over to our layers panel, there's our div container. You can double click inside here to name whatever you want. And you'll see over the right-hand side, we can change various different aspects. So currently set as a div, but you can set this up to be sections, articles, all those kinds of things you want to handle the normal semantic layout of any kind of page. So they can all be set up inside here. You can set it to section, for example. Want to create a new style, you can see there's a bunch of utility classes here, but if you wanted to create your own custom class, you can do that. So let's say we wanted to have a custom container. Well, we'll just say container, hit enter, and now that opens up the options then to set all the values we want for that particular class. You can see it selects the container there, so we know we're working with it. We can componentize this if we want to. And then down the right-hand side, we can set things like layout options, your position, your size, your spacing, your typography, your background. All those options are here for you. And obviously, you can still reference the variables and the classes and all those kinds of things. So instead of putting hard-coded values inside here, you can easily set things up using the variables pulled in from Core Framework or your own framework, whatever you want to do. You can go with Flex, you can work with Grid. You can see we've already got a bunch of grid options already set up inside here. So from a content creation and design point of view, all the key things you should need are here and catered for. And connecting that up to a framework means that you have a lot of control over the design. I'm not going to get stuck into showing you how to design because I think if you were used to working with bricks or Oxygen or anything like that, this is all going to feel very familiar to you anyway. Then you can see we've got options for content. So if we open this up, inside here, you can create, as its name suggests, your content. So currently there's posts and you can create a new post from here. Then you can fill out all the details. So you can put your title in, put your content in. So we can hit the little // and you can see we can configure various things. So again, if you're coming from like Gutenberg and so on, this is all very familiar to you. So you might want to put in something like a table. Well, you can put your table inside there and you start filling the details out. Then you've got your slug, your SEO title, description, and so on. So your normal SEO options here, you can add in a featured image. So again, we can select, open up the media library. Things are organized quite nicely inside the media library as well. We can filter things down, use the selected, that's added in. Pretty cool, simple to do. And then once you're finished, you've kind of created your page. And if you want to preview it, you can preview a live mode inside here. Now, obviously, we've got no sort of templates or anything like that created, no site published, so we're limited to what we can do. But again, we've got kind of like shortcuts at the top for adding in kind of relevant things. Inserting data tokens, so you can grab data from various different parts of your site. So you can see there's the data, so you can reference that. So think of things like advanced custom fields where you create custom fields and you pull those in and we use little shortcodes. This is kind of what you're doing here. Now, if you come into your data, this is, as you can see, where we can filter and find things about data tables. So you've got pages, posts, components, and layouts. You can create your own custom tables. So you can give this a new name. So if you were creating something like with e-commerce, you could create products here or whatever you want. So let's just say properties. Is it a data table or a post type? Well, we'll say it's a post type. Singular label, plural label. So we'll say properties, and click create. Confirm our password, and now we've created a custom table. We can add rows in. We've got various different table settings we can choose on here, from routing, display, fields, the different fields you want inside there. So you can see we've got things like title, slug, body, and so on. the danger zone if you want to get rid of the table. Again, you're not reliant upon third-party tools. You have this data structure ability built directly inside you, and you can add your own custom rows and so on in. Again, I'm just taking a kind of relatively first look at a lot of the options here, so don't expect me to be Mr. Conversant in all the different features. You are seeing a lot of this and interacting with it through me in the same way as this kind of first looks for me. So just bear that in mind. Then if you come into your media, you can see this basically just emulates the same little pop-up window we had when we choose things like featured images and so on. So all the things are here for your missing alt text, your missing title, so you can quickly filter things. You can filter based upon images, SVG, videos, and so on. And you can upload directly from here, so you can just choose what you want to upload. So let's say we'll upload a couple more images, for example. Hit open. You can see they're pretty quick to upload. Once finished, they're now added in. And there's our images. Choose whatever you want, and you can see you can add in the relevant details. It gives you an overview of the actual image itself and so on. So again, pretty simple and pretty cool. If you jump into the plugin section, well, you can install additional plugins. There are currently nothing that I know of available right now, but when they are, you'll be able to install them inside here. And finally, we have users. Now inside here, you can see I'm currently the only user here. I'm active, I'm the owner, it's an owner account. I can create new users. I can see the roles. So you've got owner, admin, and client, and so on. So we can apply roles. If we expand these out, you can view them. You can see exactly what they can and can't do. So again, if you were used to using things like WordPress, where you've got different plugins that allow you to monitor and adjust these kinds of things, this is all directly built into Instatic. You've also got an audit inside here. You can see exactly what's been going on by any of the users. So this is just me, where the user was created, logged in, a data row and title was created, data table properties was created. So all the things that I've done, all listed inside here. So we can see exactly what's going on and track anything. And then once you finish and you designed your page or whatever it is, you simply hit on publish. That will publish the site, and then you'll be able to access it and interact with it and see how it all works. If you want to adjust any of the settings for your site, you can click on the little cog icon, and then inside here you can set up like your general, so your favicon and so on, any keyboard shortcuts you want to use, publishing, how it's handled, and any preferences you want to set up, so automatic save delays and so on. So there's a lot of things here, and for an alpha product, there's an awful lot going on. The fact that it's connected up to the AI means that we've got that control, and it's something that I want to test out myself. I'm going to let it mature a little bit before I get stuck in and spend too much time on it. But I think it's interesting what they're doing with this, and I think the fact it's connected into Core Framework if you want to use it, so it's not coming from a company that has no track record. You've got Motion.page, you've got Core Framework, and they've been doing Core Framework for many years, which is connected to things like Bricks, Oxygen, Gutenberg, and so on, as well as all the design packs that you've got available, which I understand will potentially be made available for Instatic as this starts to grow and mature, which is a good thing to see, because you can come in and you can add content inside here. So for example, if we come into Add to Canvas, you can see inside there's 21 modules currently available. They're all pretty basic modules. You know, they're individual things like containers, loops, and so on, so we can pull in and create data loops and stuff like that. I'm interested to see when the layouts actually come in and we can start to use those layouts. And I'm sure there will probably be layout packs you can purchase as part of how Instatic will move forward. But all in all, I think it's an interesting project. It's very early on. There's a lot of options set up inside you, and I definitely think it's one to keep an eye on. And if you want to try it out yourself, I'll put a link in the description down below. You've seen how easy it is to get all set up and configured. So you can spin this up in a matter of a minute or so, and you can be stuck in here and get a little bit of a feel for how it all works. But as always, all applicable links are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.